Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. I'm a licensed cognitive behavior therapist and a licensed mental health counselor. This is for entertainment purpose only. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the contents in this channel. I'd like to start by paying my deepest condolence to the families of Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana. May they rest in peace. May the correct justice be served. This is for entertainment purpose only. May Brent Lee Kopacka rest in peace. Condolence to his family too. Sometimes when you are trying to research about a case, whether it's a cold case or active case, you may have to go into some certain areas that you may not want to. That maybe your viewers may get upset of that too. And I really respect that. I appreciate my viewers and subscribers. But I'm here, like my viewers and subscribers, to get justice for the 4 victims. So to do exactly that, we may need to knock on some doors that we really do not want to. But Brent Lee Kopacka is a very important part of this case, I personally believe, and I'll explain to you all why. I'll try to be mindful, which I usually am, but I can't ignore the fact that there's so many coincidences with Mr. Brent Kopacka in this case. If you'll remember, the first couple of weeks before law enforcement came out and said that they made an arrest, the first couple of weeks where everybody was trying to do our own armchair detective work in finding out who could be possibly involved in these horrific crimes. A lot came out about Brent Kopacka. That's why I tried not to touch much on this topic. But the more I research and the more I see the connections, I cannot ignore that Brent Kopacka, may rest in peace, needs to be talked about. Not in a negative way, but in the facts. The facts is Mr. Kopacka suffered of PTSD. My respect, my love, my prayers goes out to anyone who suffers of mental health illness. And I really mean that because I'm a licensed mental health counselor. So I'm very mindful about the struggles people have in different kind of mental health illness. PTSD is connected usually with trauma, anxiety, paranoia, nightmares, night sweats, etc. I can understand why Brent Kopacka suffered of PTSD. He was an ex-military man. He received a Purple Heart Medal. Any military man should be well respected. The family should be well respected for that too, because obviously he served for his country. But we cannot ignore the fact of how Brent Kopacka died. Brent Kopacka was shot and killed by the SWAT team in Washington, Pullman, on the 14th to the 15th of December 2022. If you pay attention, that's 1 month after the quadruple murders in Idaho, Moscow. Brent Kopacka, his case is sealed. There has to be a purpose for that. Because let's not ignore the fact that he's not a CIA agent, he ain't a spy, he ain't a president or someone in a high category that his case has to be sealed. There has to be a purpose and a reason. Brent Kopacka could have been under medication for his PTSD and anxiety and all that, or maybe he was self-medicating. We don't know that. The police in Pullman, Washington Pullman, made a conference, and they spoke and they said that they had no choice, but after 7 hours they had to shoot him down because he barricaded himself in his apartment, and in the beginning he kept 2 of his roommates as hostage. That is extremely important. So we have an incident, a hostage incident here. It takes a lot for the SWAT team to come in a situation. So it has to be a severe situation for the SWAT team to come out. And it was severe enough because he was keeping 2 roommates as hostage. The question is why? We need to ask ourselves why. I remember rumors online that were speculating at the beginning, rumors, yeah, I'm just saying that I'll clear out, is that the roommates found out that both are BKs, Brent Kopacka had something to do with allegedly with the quadruple murders. And that makes sense, because if a roommate or someone confronts you directly, or if you find out that they've caught on to that you were involved, it's obviously going to be a war, I believe. Let's not forget, PTSD is like having a war with your own thoughts. So he was suffering already to mental illness. He could have been self-medicating. This is a skilled military man who knows how to use K-bar knives and large knives. Brent Kopacka had this on his social media. If you see what's written up, it's written, "I see you too." I wonder who he was talking to. We know that Brian Koberger had a similar picture of one eye. We know that Brian Koberger did a research where he was searching for participants in his concerning research, is the way I would have put it, about how to do killings. Have you ever been... He was asking ex-cons, basically, people who are ex-criminals, about how they felt before they went and did a killing, trigger warning, after they did it, if they planned it out, and such questions. which we all know about that. So the question is, could Brent Kopacka have found Brian Kohberger through his research? This is another social media that people believe it's Brian Kohberger. Looking at the nose and the eye, I do actually believe it's Brian Kohberger. But we can't be accurate and say it is definitely him, but it does look like him. Look at this one eye and look at the other picture of the other eye. Brent Kopacka clearly has it written underneath him, I see you too. Look at the date. 6th of December 2022, 3 weeks after the killings took place in Idaho, Moscow. If you'll pay attention to the silver car with the covered all up with snow, there is a Hyundai. I believe it's a 2013 model. That was parked in front of Kopacka's house, apartments, coffee apartment house. It used to be parked in front of his parents' house. Just saying, a silver car could look like a white car at night. This was the collection trigger warning of the machetes, the large knives Brent Kopacka had in his house. Look at his shrine or his museum. You can see that he was really fascinated not only with knives, and don't forget, he's trained with knives, with guns, name all the kind of weapons. This is a military man. The timing of the killings of the quadruple murders was under 20 minutes, under 15 minutes, under 13 minutes. We still can't be sure since the timelines have been changed. Look at the pictures of what he has above and look at the scream mask. If you see it there, it's a mask. It's not a picture, it's a mask. He was really fascinated in the Halloween movie. If you pay attention to the Halloween movies, it's all about brutally killing girls, college girls and such things. At least one of them is about that. I believe that was the one made in 2021. Just a coincidence. I'm just mentioning it. If you ask me, this knife has been used before. Just look at the blade on the knife. It's been spoken about before that the bow, the blue bow tied to the knife, looks like the bow of the dog that was skinned in Idaho, Moscow, a couple of weeks before the innocent victims got killed. I'm not saying that it is, but it's something we're paying attention to. This was all the things that was in his house. And his friends said that the house was emptied, it was cleaned up, so all his stuff was removed. Where was the large knives taken? Were they taken under forensic evidence maybe? His friend mentioned that his mobile device was restarted. I find that to be fascinating. If Brent Kopacka managed to keep 2 roommates hostage, that is pattern of behavior that we watch out as therapists. Could it be possible that he felt threatened by the roommates, like we heard rumors and speculations online from people in Washington Pullman, saying that the roommates found out that he was involved? there is a very good reason for him to keep them as hostage. This man was clearly not going down without a fight. But the question is, what made the roommates call 911, the police, and the police called the SWAT team? Because the police knew they were dealing with a skilled, Killer. This is a skilled military man. They knew what he's capable of. They knew which countries he served in. He had a shootout with the police and the SWAT team for 7 hours, if not 7.5 hours. That should say a lot. SWAT team standoffs do not last that much. He barricaded himself in the house. As a therapist, this is how I personally, actually, not even as a therapist, this is how I see it. He must have been in his state of mind. He must have still been imagining that he was in a war with the enemy. Because PTSD has a lot to do with trauma. They have a lot of flashbacks. Pay attention to the mask here. That is the mask from Scream. This man had an obsession with horror movies. Some people may say there's nothing to that. It's just a fantasy or just an obsession, or he just liked horror movies. There's a difference. When you like horror movies, I used to watch Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger was his name, and Jason. We all grew up with watching different kind of characters in horror movies. But most of us in this world do not go fantasizing about them and carrying large knives, having a whole shrine of masks and seriously disturbing things. These are disturbing things. No matter how we put it, this does not look like a normal person's house. Take a closer look at this knife. The marks you see on the knife are clearly red liquid. It's YouTube, you can't say it all, but you'll get it. It could be a rusty knife, but no. That looks like red liquid. And these were just one of his knives. Steve Gonsalves mentioned that the coroner told him that his daughter had gouges. She had open wounds. May she rest in peace. Kaylee. Could this be the knife that was used? Allegedly. Look at how sharp the blades are in the knife. This knife looks like it was used. The man barricaded himself in the house, in his flat. He had a 7-hour shootout with the SWAT team. The police themselves said he was a danger to the public. The students had to be evacuated from their flats and the apartments nearby. I can't answer for all the people who have a shootout with the SWAT team, But I believe they do it when they believe there's no way out. Because you can't win over a SWAT team, no matter how long it takes. So I personally believe Brent Kopacka didn't want to go in jail. That's the last thing he wanted. He was willing to shoot some officers down, or he was willing to get unlived himself. 2 roommates were involved that he kept as hostage, and then he barricaded himself inside the flat. That has a lot to say about a person's state of mind. I wonder if he was self-medicating himself with any drugs. I wonder who his friends were. I wonder if he knew anyone in Kings Road. I wonder if he has ever seen them. Just asking questions. I want to know exactly the reason Brian Koberger, his father, mentioned the SWAT team incident when they were already 1.5 days away from driving from Washington Pullman. Some people have said, no, maybe Brian Koberger heard about it since he's a teacher. He must have heard on it from the radio or something like that. No, that's impossible, because Brian Koberger was in Indiana when the stop was made. When his father mentioned the SWAT team shooting, I believe the father did not know anything. He was just trying to make convo. He was trying to make conversation with the police officer. My question is, could Brent Kopacka have been involved in these tragic, horrific quadruple murders? The reason I ask is he was fascinated with weapons, large weapons. He has the skills of using knives. His knives look like they were used in whatever purpose. We heard the different kind of knives or a sharp edge weapon was used. I believe Brent Kopacka wouldn't be scared of blood, of red liquid. Absolutely not. He was a soldier. They were around death often. Let's not forget. Whether they were unliving people or people were unliving their people. This is an experienced, skilled man. I don't know if his eyebrows would be considered as bushy eyebrows, but they look to me as they are bushy eyebrows too. May he rest in peace. I'm not judging this young man, but I find a lot of red flags with Brent Kopacka. It's very suspicious. The timing of his death was exactly 4 weeks after the quadruple murders. Did the roommates allegedly call the police and tell them, can you please come? We are scared. Brent has kept us as hostage inside the house, and we believe he's involved with the quadruple murders. Is that the reason the police came with the SWAT team? Because they knew they had danger in their hands. Is that possible? Possibly. And maybe that is the reason, allegedly, the knife hasn't been found. Maybe the police found the knife in his house. He had a collection of knives. Maybe he got rid of the knife. We don't know. But there are many coincidences here. Keeping women or 2 roommates as hostage. SWAT team having a shootout with a person for 7.5 hours. The police said he was a danger to the public. You can read that in the articles that are around. Watch the conference with the police in Washington, Pullman, where the chief is saying that, but we had no choice but to take him out. May he rest in peace. Another thing, military men are very skilled in working at night. They work in the dark, in sunlight, in daylight. Anyone with a military background would know that. Fear wouldn't be something in his mind. Absolutely not. Because he barricaded himself and he was having a shootout with the SWAT team. He was really fascinated with knives, weapons, with horror movies. And he was skilled in using these weapons. What could be the motive, you may ask? I would possibly think that either he took part in Brian Koberger's research, or maybe he had nothing to do with Brian Koberger, and maybe he knew one of the surviving roommates or one of the roommates. They crossed paths, and maybe he fell in love with one of them. That is totally possible. Could he have been involved in drugs? You never know. Did something go wrong? Did he feel like the roommates were going to snitch on him? So he held them as hostage? Very possible.
Yes.
Okay.
You guys ready? Yep.
All right, thank you. So on December 14th, 2022, at about 8:37 p.m., our officers were dispatched to the 1000 block of Latah Street for a weapon offense. Officers learned a male in his 30s was threatening to kill his roommates. The roommates were evacuated from the apartment, and police officers attempted to speak with that male, who barricaded himself inside of his apartment. Pullman PD crisis negotiators and the Whitman County Regional SWAT team responded. The suspect began firing from his apartment. The area was evacuated. After unsuccessful negotiations, his escalating behavior, and a continued danger to the public and others, the male was shot by a member of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team. The suspect was found deceased when the Whitman County Regional SWAT team cleared the apartment. On behalf of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team, Pullman PD has requested assistance of the Washington State Patrol to investigate the officer-involved shooting. Further information will be released by the Washington State Patrol. Per RCW 43102, this investigation must be completely independent of the agency whose officer was involved in the use of deadly force. The Whitman County Regional SWAT team is made up of officers from the Whitman County Sheriff's Office, Pullman Police Department, and the WSU Police Department. Thank you.
All right. Do you have follow-up questions now?
I don't really have anything more I can give you at this time.
Or I just mean, like to some things that I heard, but I want to make sure it's right. Like what
Okay.
you said. What was the block number for the apartment?
In the 1000 block of Latah.
1000 block of Latah. Okay. And you said it was a man in his 30s threatening to kill his roommate.
Yes.
Okay.
Did his roommates get out?
Yes.
Do you know when that call came in?
8:37.
Has that officer been put on administrative leave?
Right now we're in the very beginning stages of this investigation, and Washington State Patrol will be conducting that investigation.
Do we know the status of the roommates yet? Or how many there were?
There were 2 roommates that were evacuated and they're fine.
Was that before or after the firing started?
Before.
Okay.
Do we know who the initial call came from?
No. All right. Thank you.
We can clearly see that the officer didn't want to speak much on it. You can even see it from his eyes. Because this is a case of a SWAT team, obviously. The case is still under investigation, although it's been almost a year, 10 months. I wonder why. You heard from the officer's own mouth that he held 2 roommates as hostage. That is a serious situation. A person who was suffering of serious PTSD, and we don't even know of what other mental health illness and the symptoms that he was going through. We don't know if he was self-medicating himself with any serious drugs, with alcohol, or with medication even. Or maybe he stopped using his medications and his symptoms turned more serious. What was the reason to hold 2 people, 2 roommates, as hostage? Obviously, they could have had any kind of misunderstanding, but that doesn't explain holding 2 roommates as hostage. The rumors that we have heard before on social media from people in Washington, Pullman students, makes a lot of sense. I believe he could have been possibly involved in the quadruple murders. That's the reason the police did not take a chance. The roommates were already out of the house. But why did they need to have to shoot him down? Because they knew they had to get the SWAT team that this is a serious incident, a dangerous incident. And if they allegedly were aware that he managed to do a quadruple murder, or if he was involved in a quadruple murder, it would have been the right thing to get the SWAT team. Let's not forget it took 32 hours for the SWAT team to end this shootout. I'm sure they must have tried to take Brent Kopacka into jail or prison instead of shooting him. That's a veteran. They wouldn't have done that. So I'm sure there's another explanation to it. That to evacuate all the students from the nearby properties. This went on from 10 hours. It started on the 14th evening, right up to the 15th morning, I believe. It started early on the 14th. But it took 7 hours. You can read the articles. May he rest in peace. Maybe the file is sealed because he was involved in the quadruple murders. Because let's not forget, Brian Kohlberger asked if it's true. He asked his lawyer in Pennsylvania, have the others been arrested? Who's the others? Was it Brent Kopacka? Was it the Sigma Chi boys, allegedly? Who were the others?
We heard from Pullman police, who explained to us, gave us a little bit more of a timeline of events as far as what happened here. So they told us around 8:37 last night, they received a phone call from some people who lived in an apartment complex not too far from where we are. Right now we're at Stadium in Maine here, just right across from WSU's campus. And they told us that at that time they received a phone call from residents at that apartment saying that that one of the people in that apartment was threatening to harm and kill some of their other roommates. Now, there were 2 other roommates that were in the apartment at that time. Police were able to get them out safely. We're told that they're doing fine. But that 30-year-old suspect who made those threats, the male in his 30s, we are told that officers did shoot and kill him. Now, we were able again to speak to the chief of police in Pullman, and here's a little bit about what he had to say about the situation.
His escalating behavior and a continued danger to the public and others, the male was shot by a member of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team. The suspect was found deceased when the Whitman County Regional SWAT team cleared the apartment.
Now, there is still a heavy police presence here in the area. Part of the street right here is blocked off. It's just a few lanes that are closed, so it's very easy to get around. And there's also heavy police presence directly behind me with both officers in their uniforms and some out of uniform as well. We also spoke to some of the businesses here in the area who said they really weren't even notified of the situation. One of the women that I talked to at this coffee shop right here, Zoe's, who actually told me that the only reason she was notified was just because her significant other actually happens to attend the school and they got the WSU notification. But several others of their staff members had no idea what was going on this morning when they came into work. So it's lucky for them that they were actually able to get in and get safely. Now, WSU, since this has all happened, has issued an all clear for students. Students are allowed to now return back to classes, especially on a day like today when many students have finals. That's incredibly important. However, again, this area is still blocked off. There is crime tape around, and this is still an active investigation. We're also told that WSP is going to be the ones taking over this investigation, and until they arrive and are able to clear the scene, this crime scene will remain active. We'll continue gathering more information here in Pullman.
The SWAT team had to take down, I hate to say this, but that's the truth, Brent Lee Kopacka. For what reason? Still remains to be known, but they've already said it, that he held 2 roommates as hostage. Now that is a serious behavior issue. The fact that he had military skills, he knew how to use knives, K-bar knives, military style knives, large knives. He had different kind of mask. He had a whole shrine, a whole museum of concerning things. That says a lot to me. It speaks volumes. And especially the fact that Brian Koberger's father mentioned it says a lot too. Please let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. He could be totally innocent and have nothing to do with this, or he could have been involved. The reason I still put my bet on that Brent Kopacka could have been involved is that as a cognitive behavior therapist, I pay attention when I analyze to certain things that do not make sense. There's a lot of connection of somebody who's capable of keeping 2 people as hostage, is capable of anything. Military skills. He knew how to use different kind of tactics. Military people, well-trained military people, can fight, kill at night. And this happened in the pitch dark times of the morning, the killings in Idaho. Why would he keep 2 roommates as hostage? It makes sense that the roommates found out a secret of these, that they knew immediately that they had to call 911. And 911 and the chief knew immediately, we need the big boys on the scene. We need the SWAT team here, because this man is a very skilled person with PTSD, and the roommates must have told him what he has inside the house, like large knives and such things. He had a shootout with the police. That means he had a gun. Let's face it. May Brent Kopacka rest in peace. May the 4 victims rest in peace. And may the truth come to the light. Please like, share, and subscribe.